I know. We still got a couple of weeks left of the regular season and the postseason, but we all want to know, where is Juan Soto going to land this offseason? Lots of people think, including myself, he'll end up just staying with the Yankees, or perhaps he'll go to the crosstown rival Mets. However, we got a juicy tidbit from Bob Nightingale the other day saying there are 5 teams expected to make bids for free agent outfielder Juan Soto in free agency this winter. Baseball executives believe the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, the Toronto Blue Jays, the San Francisco Giants, and the Philadelphia Phillies. So in this video, I'm going to dive into each of these teams. I'm going to give my thoughts on the fit of Juan Soto going there, and then I'm going to give a percent chance on whether or not I think these teams can land Mr. Juan Soto. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the team he's already with, the Yankees. I mean, let's keep it simple. I think there's a great chance of him staying there. He's having the best season of his career there, hitting .285, a .414 on base, a .567 slugging, a .176 WRC plus, 39 home runs. Those are crazy numbers, but he also has the best protection in all of Major League Baseball, Aaron Judge, who's probably going to be winning the MVP this year. So the thought of having a modern-day Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris in the lineup has to be enticing to Juan Soto, but that's not going to be the most enticing thing. It's going to be the money at the end of the day. You're probably looking at something around $450 to $500 million for Juan Soto, possibly even more. And we know the Yankees, they got that kind of cash. One of the most valuable franchises in all of sports across the entire world. So we know the Yankees can definitely pay up for Soto. And for Soto as well, I mean, hey, the Yankees, pinstripes, that's good marketing opportunities off the field as well. You know he probably has to value that a little bit. But what I think for Juan Soto as well that's going to come into play here is whatever team he ends up going to, I think he wants them to be competing for the playoffs every single year. And the Yankees are usually, for the most part, competing for the postseason every single year. And that is because they have the money. They can go out there and get free agents, but they also have pretty solid farm systems year in and year out. They're usually churning out good young players for the most part. So I think for Juan Soto, when you tie all this together, like the money aspect for not just the contract, but off the field opportunities, good player development for the most part, as well as a passionate fan base. I think he really loves being in the Bronx. I think he loves the passion that Yankee fans have for the team. I think it's just a perfect environment for Juan Soto. I mean, we've seen some of the greatest players of all time, retire as Yankees. And I think for Soto, I honestly think he's going to end up being one of the best players of all time when all is said and done. He is well on his way to getting there. So for me, I think the Yankees make too much sense. So in the end, when you wrap all this together, I'll give the Yankees a 70% chance to sign him. Let's move on to the other team in New York, the Mets. Now, I think the Mets will be serious competition for Juan Soto here for a few reasons. Like I said, money is going to be a big factor here, and we know Steve Cohen, who's worth over $20 billion freaking dollars for crying out loud, has the money to get a deal done. Now, I think he's going to try everything he can with David Stearns to get Soto to Queens, and I think you could even see the Mets be more aggressive than the Yankees here, kind of like how we saw the Giants with Aaron Judge a couple of years ago. They ended up getting Arson Judge, and then Aaron Judge went back to the Yankees at the last second, but I expect the Mets to go all out here. They are considered the little brother in New York, and they've been looking to become just as relevant as the Yankees, and this would be a massive signing for them. Now, as for the Mets, they already got a lot of solid players in place, right? Francisco Lindor having himself an MVP season, got someone like Mark Vientos who's really broken out this year. They do got some talent here, but they also got some talent coming up the pipe, and their farm system has greatly improved over the last couple of years. They're now ranked 10th overall in the Baseball America farm system rankings. You got guys like Brandon Sproat, who really broke out in the minor leagues this year. Christian Scott has shown a lot of good things. You got some other players like Jet Williams. You also have Luis Angel Acuna that just came up this year. So the Mets, they do got some talent coming up the pipe. I expect them to be aggressive here. Now, as for a percent chance, I'll go 20% for the Mets. That might be a little low for some people, but for me, I'll stick at 20. Let's move on to a bit of a surprise team here, the Blue Jays. Now, for me, the Blue Jays coming up is a bit surprising, considering we've really only heard about the 2 New York teams with Soto, but in another point of view, I'm kind of not surprised. Now, remember, it looked like at one point Shohei Ohtani was heading to Toronto until the Shark Tank guy got off the plane. They've been trying to land a star there, and perhaps Soto could be that guy. They have the money, considering the Blue Jays are owned by Rogers Communications, one of the big media companies in Canada, which is worth worth $22 billion. And they do have another star there in Vlad Jr., if they can extend him, of course. So they are motivated to win, and I could definitely see the Blue Jays trying to be aggressive, and Soto would be the biggest star in sports in all of Canada. Now, what holds the Blue Jays back for me, though, is they've shown an inability to get over that hump in recent years, and with their farm system, it's not looking all that great. They're only 23rd overall on Baseball America right now. Ricky Tiedemann, he's been hurt in the last year. So, I don't know. When it comes to the Blue Jays, I'm just not really feeling it. There are some good pieces here, but I think long term, I don't see Soto being the Toronto Blue Jays as a long-term team for him. I'll go 0%. Another team that was mentioned by Nightingale were the Phillies, and I could see some people finding this surprising, but I could also see why it's not surprising at the same time. Now, we all know when it comes to Dave Dombrowski, he's out there wheeling and dealing, and when you got a player like Juan Soto on the market, Dave Dombrowski, he's going to put in at least a strong effort. He's landed a lot of big names over the years, granted a couple in trades like Miguel Cabrera, Chris Sale, along with signing Trey Turner a couple of years ago. So, hey, why not go after Juan Soto? He also has the backing of Phillies owner John Middleton, who is willing to do what it takes to win a championship. And also, speaking of Trey Turner, he used to be former teammates with Juan Soto along with Bryce Harper, so I'm sure those guys are going to do what they can to recruit him there. Now, what holds me back with the Phillies is the payroll. They got a few big contracts long-term on this payroll. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Aaron Nola. So I'm not sure if John Middleton is going to want to add another massive salary on top of these three guys. We'll just have to wait and see. Now with the Phillies, when you consider the fact that they always want to win a championship, I think you have to give them a chance here. It does feel like maybe they're in these sweepstakes to try and drive up the price for the Mets and try to get him to go elsewhere. That's kind of how it feels to me, at least, but I'd say give the Phillies a chance here, even though they do have a lot of salaries on the payroll for the next several years. I'll go 5%. Earlier, I mentioned the Giants landing Arson Judge instead of Aaron Judge, but maybe this time they could finally land the big fish with Juan Soto. Now, we all know the Giants have the money, they got the payroll flexibility, and they've been looking for their next big star since Barry Bonds and Buster Posey, but they keep missing out on these guys. They've gone after players like Giancarlo Stanton, Bryce Harper, Ohtani last year, Carlos Correa, which didn't work out because of the medicals, and sure, they landed some guys last offseason like Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Jung-Hoo Lee, but those guys aren't what I would say are superstars. Now, what holds me back on the Giants, though, is again, the inability to land these big stars, and one reason could be the fact that it's not a great hitter's park there, which JD Martinez said was a big reason why he didn't go there. On top of that, they do have a decent young core of players, but considering their farm system only ranks 20th overall, I wonder if maybe that holds back Juan Soto when it comes to going to the Giants, along with the fact that it's not a great hitter's park. So in the end, I'll go 5% for the Giants. I do want to talk about one team that Nightingale didn't mention, and that's the Washington Nationals, the team that signed and developed Juan Soto, and the team he helped win a World Series back in 2019. Now, a couple of years ago, the Nationals offered Soto a $440 million contract, which he ended up turning down, which triggered the Nationals into trading him to the Padres. Now, a couple of those players that went back to the Nationals were James Wood, one of the top prospects in baseball this year. He's looking very promising this year. Mackenzie Gore, who's looking solid at the top of the rotation. However, they've also got a couple other prospects, one being Dylan Cruz, the number 2 pick from last year's draft. They just called him up this year. He's looking very promising. Very excited to see what he can do. And soon, they're going to be calling up Brady House at some point. He's doing pretty well in the minors this year. So the Nationals right now, they have the 4th overall farm system on Baseball America. So maybe the Nationals might be inclined, considering that they have a great farm, they're about to step back into a competitive window, maybe they might be inclined here to try again with Soto, and maybe Soto might think, hey, the Nationals, they're on the rise here. They're looking pretty solid, possibly for years to come. I mean, this could be a great environment for Soto to jump back into. Now, the problem here is whether or not the Nationals would be willing to play ball and possibly offer Soto more of a contract this time. Now, the reason that's a bit of a question mark is they've been going through some stuff with ownership. Ownership has been looking into a possible sale of the franchise over the last couple of years. So will the Nationals be willing to step into that ballpark with Juan Soto? I'm not quite sure. If they are, though, I definitely think they could be a bit of a wild card. That's just my opinion, though. No. Now, let me know. Now, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Where do you think Juan Soto is going to end up signing this offseason? The Yankees, the Mets, maybe a team like the Blue Jays, maybe the Phillies surprise some people, maybe the Giants could finally land a big star, or maybe the Nationals could bring him home. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. But that's all I got for right now, everyone. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.